think we should start by giving a shout out to the people who have been watching and are subscribed and liking all of our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate it, and it's cool.
Snaps for you guys.
Yeah, and I feel like we've had a little bit of an increase too over the last month or two. It seems like of people watching, listening, and stuff. So if you're not subscribed, maybe think about it.
Yeah, that's one thing that Bussin keeps talking about too. Like, it's one thing to have people watch it, but it's crazy how many people watch it but then don't subscribe. Like, for them, it's like over 60% of like continual like religious watchers, but they don't subscribe.
Religious?
Yeah.
They're praying.
Bussin with the Boys is a religion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
That's cool.
I feel like that's something that we've talked about a while back, of like trying to just be very appreciative of the group that we have that's listening. It's easy to compare and go like, well, we don't have thousands of people watching, hundreds of people watching, but it starts with a small group and a small community.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you want the ride or dies.
Yeah.
You don't want the people that are fleeting, coming and going type of thing. So it's like,
yeah,
some of our videos get a lot more views than the other ones, but it seems like there's a pretty consistent group of people that are watching it, and it's like those are the ones that we want to talk to or be giving content for and whatever. Yeah. It's like the people that are coming and going and leaving stupid comments and stuff. It's like, see you later.
Yeah. And I've got to give it up for the guests that we've just had.
Yeah, a lot of guest episodes.
A lot of guests. If you have not seen those are good. Those are from all when we were back in Wisconsin. Yep. Teaching, but we got some fun people on the eps.
Yeah, family and friends, and then here we are back home. Yeah. Just us. Yeah. Just you and me. Yep. Okay.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
No, I feel like the guest things it was fun. It was a good switch up. The audio for us wasn't as although maybe you did the magic with the editing to make it sound.
Did the best I could.
Doable. We chose to be outside, so that just brings different challenges with that. But I thought it looked cool and different and change of pace.
Yeah, I think it was good overall. It's a little bit more editing and trying to get the audio to sound better and that sort of stuff. I think if we were to do it again, I'd probably just let's just do it inside where audio is not going to be a problem or an issue and that sort of thing. So yeah, and then also maybe like trying to add more camera angles to it rather than just the 2 shots that are continuous. I think people like the switching of the cameras and keeps them engaged and that sort of thing, and a little bit more production there rather than it just being still the whole time. So
yeah, that was just our first time doing guests like that where it wasn't just my dad here. Yeah. That we were nervous to add more.
Well, it's just
people's phones and different types of,
We don't have like 4 cameras or a bunch of cameras, we just use our phones. So it's like we only have as many cameras as we do phones, and we don't want to have other people use their phones for camera angles and stuff like that. So we just figured out, let's just do it this way. Yeah. Make it simple and easy. There's enough going on with having to figure out audio and where to put everything and sit and all that kind of stuff, let alone like what are we going to talk about with these people and all that sort of stuff that like, it's like, let's just try to make it simple and streamline it a little bit rather than it having be this like crazy, I don't know, crazy production. Like you said, it's like the first time we've done, and we've only ever done them here with your dad for guests. We had that one where we were in Seattle, but I think otherwise, like we've always been just at home. So we know the layout, we know where to put everything, set everything up. But, when you do something that you're not used to doing, is stuff you got to figure out and maybe actually like cut out too. It's like, we're not going to worry about this part of it. So let's just do it simply. So, yeah. But next time we do it, a little bit better production value is what I'd like to do.
Sure. I think the first time around I was just trying to get who we were having on as comfortable as possible and as like regular, doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Yeah.
We could have, brought the lights and done all that, but I think that also causes a little bit more of like a
Yeah.
like,
This
whoa,
is
what am I doing?
Yeah. You're already setting up cameras and have microphones, and people are not used to talking into microphones and having cameras on them. So it's like, it's already uncomfortable. And then now, yeah, you put big lights up and all that kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
like, just make it, comfortable and simple.
Yeah. Man, this seems like forever since we've done this.
I know. It's crazy. I feel like we have to be like, so this is what we've been doing. Because just like, it's been like 3 or 4 weeks
Yeah. Well,
that
and
we've done a regular one.
it's obviously with all the last episodes that we've put out, it's like it's been the time in between our episodes, but that was all crammed into a week.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
A week, 2 weeks.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's like almost like a month worth of podcasts came out, but we shot those in a week or 2.
Yeah, like all those were early August.
Yeah.
And we are going into mid-September.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird.
We've been home for a little bit, back into our routine. Not on coffee.
Yeah.
Haven't been drinking coffee for like 2 weeks.
You're longer than me. You're probably well over 2 weeks because I
feel like I'm only like 2 or 3 days longer than you.
Okay, because I am a week and 5 days.
You're really keeping track.
No, it's just because I just counted. That's why.
No.
I've been tracking it by the Mondays, so then I just
You have a
added the extra
calendar.
5.
You're just like crossing out another day.
Yeah, a week and 5 days. The first few days were scary how bad it was. Like, it was annoyingly bad. Like,
Like in what ways? Like what?
Scary, and I don't mean like it was scary. It was scary in the sense of, fuck, I did not realize how bad I was physically. Like, I knew I was emotionally connected to it, but I didn't know physically how much my body has been dependent on it. Like, the headaches, I haven't really ever had a headache like that. Like, it was so severe. It was making me nauseous. It made me want to throw up for how bad the pain was. And like, I don't really get headaches like that, so that was one thing. And I had, maybe not to that extreme, but I had bad headaches for multiple days. So it's like, it's not just, oh, I'm tired and I need to, just suck it up. It was like, oh, this is putting me in pain.
Yeah. I think you have a hair like on the top of your, on the brim or something. I don't know. That.
I do.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have had that because I was having like a little bit of a headache before that. I think there's a ton of context with this. So it's like you have to figure out what else you're doing around that time, because we have been working out outside in like 85 to 90 degree heat with the humidity. I mean, it's Florida, so it's like, how hot it is. And we've been doing more athletic type workouts. So lots of like explosive movements, and, we're doing jumps, we're doing medicine ball throws, we're doing like the kettlebell stuff that's more like faster pace, explosive, that sort of thing. So it's like we're outside doing those workouts. It's not like we're just like doing dumbbell curls out there. I think that I was so dehydrated for just continuously, like every day, that I think that was contributing more to the headache for me than the coffee was. Because I had it a little bit before, the headaches a little bit before. And that's kind of when I came to the idea of like, maybe I should just go off coffee for a little bit. Maybe I'm like, because I was also noticing with the coffee, like I just, for some reason, have been getting jittery from it. So I was like, let's just cut it. I haven't gone off of coffee, like not had coffee for years. It's like I always have coffee in the morning. So I wonder for you if it was somewhat of the same thing and not just the coffee.
It could have been. it's just the timeline. Like, you would think I'd be getting any sort of fatigue or headache or issue when we first started the workouts. Like, it was perfectly in line with first day off of coffee, I have the bad headache.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not really drinking any more, any less. Like, I feel like I'm pretty good with my water intake. I always do the salt and the magnesium. Like, I'm on that every single day. That, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like you said, the timeline matched up so perfectly, and it seemed like after a couple days, the headaches went away for you.
But the workouts we still did, so.
Yeah, to where for me it continued to linger, and I think for me it was just dehydration. You know, it's like we go on a morning walk, and then we usually work out midday, and we were doing these workouts outside and intense ones, and then usually on an afternoon walk as well. So it's like we're outside for 3+ hours in 90-degree heat, and one of them is like intense working out.
Yeah.
And I'm just sweating all the time when we're outside. So, and I just was not only having the coffee in the morning, like usually that's kind of all I'm drinking. I'm not having a bunch of water until noon. And that has just slowly became that because I'm having a little bit more coffee. I think it's like 16 ounces of the cup that I usually fill up. And I just am a slow drinker. So it takes me forever. But then I'm wanting to make sure I'm done with that by noon so that it's not affecting my sleep and whatever. It can get out of my system by the time we're going to bed. So it's like I'm only focused on drinking coffee for the first 6 hours of the day, you know, and then I'm not drinking any water. And then we're doing these intense workouts and we're outside and sweating a lot. It's like, I think I was just like dehydrated pretty much every day. Cause I mean, it was a headache every single day. And it's just that like tension headache where it just feels like there's a bunch of pressure in your head and that sort of thing. And since we've been off of coffee, and really it's like been the past 2 or 3 days, 4 days that we've stopped doing those workouts, I'm not getting the headaches anymore. And I'm just loading up on water. I'm like, this seems like this might have been the key. Like just too much exertion out in the heat and dehydration and that sort of thing. So I don't know, just like putting it out there. If people are for some reason feeling headaches every day or something weird or whatever, it's like try to take a full picture look and see what's going on. Cause I was like, well, maybe it's coffee. And then I do that and it's like, man, it's not coffee because I'm still getting them and I've been off coffee for over 2 weeks now. And then turns out it's like, oh, you might be just, which is kind of why we're talking about what we're talking about today too. I feel like it's like you kind of just got to look at, okay, am I doing too much? Is like, what's going on? Like, did I start a new workout program? Okay, what is with this workout program that might be making me feel this way? It's like, well, you're doing it outside in really extreme heat type of situation. And like the workouts you're doing are intense, you know, it's like we're pretty much going 90%, 100% for 30, 45 minutes. It's like,
and outside, and we're not used to even doing those like demanding of workouts, period.
No. It's like those would be challenging inside, and now we're adding the heat element to it. It's like, yeah, this just probably wasn't smart to do.
At the peak of the heat in the day.
Yeah.
Going right at noon.
Yeah, we're going like right at noon. Yeah. And it's like summertime. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think that's something to take into consideration when we're, again, talking about today is like we change up things in our life to affect one thing, but we have to like take a full scope of, well, it's going to affect other things. If you think it can affect this, the goal that you're going for, it's going to affect other things. Whether it's working out or not, it could be you're trying to do a new sleep schedule or a new food schedule or a new work schedule. It's like that's all going to change. It's like a butterfly effect of your health and your life and your day, that trying to see what other changes could occur if I adjust this thing. Because like for you, you took off caffeine because of the headaches. Well, caveat of that is you're starting to drink more water because you don't have any other liquids that you're needing to balance with it. It's like you didn't really think it was hydration, but because you were not doing caffeine. So you could say, oh, great, it was caffeine. Because when I stopped doing coffee, I stopped getting the headaches. It's like, well, no, it's probably because you're drinking more water. For you,
Right.
at least. For me, the headaches were the caffeine. It was like withdrawal headaches.
Oh, yeah.
Because like I'm drinking the same amount of water. I do drink large amounts of water while I'm drinking coffee.
Well,
so
and
I'm
we said
counterbalancing it a little bit.
I was getting these headaches before we were even off of coffee, not having caffeine. And we were doing those workouts outside at that time too. So, but yeah, I think you're totally right. And I think that's why people get so religious about when they change one thing and they have these like profound effects from it. They think that it's just from that one thing. And it's like, well, it could be because it, like you said, it affected a lot of other things that are happening throughout the day or maybe just in that moment that is making this thing happen so extreme for you in the positive or the negative. It's the same thing. Like this is a little bit more of a negative situation of the effects of it, which it really seems like the thing was more the workouts outside had this domino effect of, okay, now it's like I really can't handle, because I wasn't having these headaches before we were doing these workouts, and I was drinking the coffee all the way up until noon. I wasn't really hydrated most of the day. Like I was kind of able to get by with it without headaches or anything extreme showing.
Sure. Sure.
To where now you add this element of like, oh, let's do these workouts and let's do them outside and be outside. And now it's like that one decision makes this domino effect of, well, now me having the coffee all day in the morning and not being hydrated and adding this, extreme workout with sweating and all of that kind of stuff, like it pushes me over the edge to where now I have this headache every day. And it's like just that little bit further. And now it's like all the whole, like it shows how fragile that system was. It's like now it all falls apart. It was like, we could probably go back to those workouts, but like I'm focused on getting in 2 gallons of water a day or something then, because that's such an extreme. And like I can't have the coffee all morning. So it's like I need to make sure I'm fueling and recovering the body correctly, because I'm pushing it to the extreme. So I need to have the same sort of recovery process or like guiding process with it. It's like people that, they attribute like keto is the reason that they lost weight. And it's just because it's like cutting out carbs. And it's like, well, you're cutting out calories by doing that too. So it's like, and we kind of know that losing weight is about putting in less than putting in less than what you're putting out type of thing. So it's like, and the studies show too that it doesn't matter if it's keto or low fat or whatever, they all basically lose weight at the same rate, the same success rate, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's not keto, it's not carbs that are the enemy. It's the fact that you reduce calories and now are losing weight. And that just, that process might be easier for you to do. It might be easier for you to cut out carbs than it is fats, whatever it might be. But it's like, it's not the carbs that were keeping you overweight. It was you had increase of calories that you were not needing or not supposed to have. So it's like, you kind of, like you said, you got to look at the full picture of it, of what's all affecting it, because you might attribute it to, well, I need to lose weight again, so I need to go on a keto diet. And it's like, well, this next time you do it might not be the one that works, because you found all your keto foods and now it's just like you're overeating with all your keto foods and you're not actually losing weight. And it's like, well, that was never the problem. It wasn't the carbohydrates. It was that you needed to reduce calories. And that was the problem. So it is like, you got to take the whole picture approach. And I think with us talking about the recovery stuff, like I have the same kind of viewpoints on that too. But it's like, it's got to be more than just one thing.
Well, and that's where this program that we're taking a break from, but the program that we were doing made me think of recovery different, because I had never really had that stimulus before. Yeah. Like, we have run a lot of different versions of programs, but this was the first time for me, at least. I think with dance, you have to somewhat move like that, like in a more like aggressive pushing, like doing the ladder drills. Like I get the same kind of feeling of when I've like really had to go for it in dance, but I'm not A, doing that regularly anymore, and then B, I'm not doing it in the ways that like we've been talking about how when you do something a lot as a kid physically, your nervous system is built within the wiring of that movement.
Yeah.
That even though we are practicing and drilling fast twitch muscles and having your CNS be firing very on demand, it's on demand in a way that I'm not used to. Like doing ladder drills, I might have been used to moving my feet fast, but I'm not used to doing it in a repetitive motion.
Yeah.
So it's like even just that of the continual patterns of like work, like the same muscles are working and your brain is having to send the same signal over and over and over again. Dance, you do that from the speed aspect, but not the continual repetition of that exertion. Like you're switching it up all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, yeah, like you said, it's not the same pattern just over and over and over again.
So for me with the recovery, I wasn't understanding like why it was really draining me. Like I was like getting tired hours before. Like I was falling asleep when we were watching it. Like I could not stay awake. Yeah. Like my sleep, I just kind of felt like I was being a little bit more restless in my sleep, waking up not feeling rested. And it's like, okay, well, as much as I am pushing myself from the maybe more like just regular musculature route of we're doing things with the kettlebell, so I'm having to like push the weight around, we're doing jumps, like I'm having to exert my muscles in a way, but I'm also training my central nervous system in a different way that I'm wondering more if it was just that like I was draining that aspect of it more than like the musculature.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that totally is it, because I mean like you're not really getting muscular sore from it, you know. It's not like,
right,
you're like, oh man, my hamstrings are so sore and that sort of thing. It was more just like feeling that drained feeling. And I think a lot of people probably go through this when they do, you know, they go from not really doing much activity to then they go into that kind of extreme exercise program, and it's like they're just so much more tired and they need to like they want to go to sleep earlier or whatever. Like maybe headaches start to come or the restlessness and all of that stuff starts to come, but it doesn't feel like a body soreness. And that's kind of what we tend to connect to the most, is like, oh, my biceps are sore because I did biceps, or my hamstrings are sore because I did, you know, straight leg deadlifts or something. But that type of training especially, and I think a lot of training that people do when they jump into these high intensity programs like HIIT training type stuff, it's not so much about getting muscular sore. Like a lot of the times it's just like that central nervous system exhaustion, to where it's like you just can't push anymore. You can't like all the things you just mentioned, like all the symptoms basically of like the restlessness, and I'm just tired at 8:30 now, and we usually go to bed at 10, and when I come to do the workouts again the next, you know, 2 days later, like I don't have the burst or the energy or the whatever, like I have to dig deep for it. And it's like those are all kind of signs of you're not recovering.
And I noticed like irritability. Like I was getting annoyed quicker. Like I felt like my fuse was shorter. I felt like I wasn't able to, like I was getting stressed quicker.
Oh, sure. Well, it's like you're increasing stress, and I would say it's a, you know, I think there's categories for it too, of like positive stress or negative stress. You know, working out is a positive sort of stress. You're putting that stress in your body so that it can adapt and recover and quote unquote make you stronger, make you healthier, all that kind of stuff. But you're still adding to the stress, you know, bucket by doing that. And it's like if you're not able to recover and regulate that and do that efficiently, that's just adding to that stress bucket. So now it's like you're trying to do something positive of, I'm going to do these crazy workouts and like get something positive out of it. But really you're just increasing to this amount of stress you have because you don't know how to recover from it. You don't know how to do a proper recovery.
Yep.
You know, along with that, you're just like, oh, I do like 10 minutes of stretching at the end and I didn't change anything else. It's like, well, that's not going to be enough, unfortunately.
Well, and realistically with this, I probably, again, where why we want to do this episode is kind of giving more of the full scope of recovery. I think we think of just simple things of like stretch and drink water. Maybe not even the drink water thing. Like just stretch.
I don't think a lot of people think drink water, but
just stretch.
Yeah.
It's like, well, but
stretch and lay down.
My muscles weren't what was fatigued.
Right.
It's like it was my CNS that was fatigued. So I'm going in this fight or flight mode for the workout, and then I'm not regulating back, and I'm not bringing myself back to the, is it parasympathetic? So it's like my body is like ramped all the time then, or like trying to get back to normal, even from a state of I'm pushing it more than I normally would within these workouts. And there's the heat element too of like, is that stressing my body? So like that's
totally.
also adding to it, that I really should have been recovering with doing something that's going to relax my body. Maybe it's doing breath work after we come back instead of stretching. It's reading a book. It's listening to music, something that's going to bring my body back down.
Yeah.
Because that's what was getting fatigued. It's like, I'm not getting sore. So like,
right.
I can stretch all I want, unless stretching gives me the sense of relaxation. But if I'm just adding more stretch, 'cause I'm trying to work the muscles and so I'm not sore, it's like, that's fine. But your brain is still going to be fried when you go back to the next workout.
Well, I think you hit it on the head. It's like you got to focus on the CNS relaxing and getting its recovery, not just the muscular part of it. So it's like if you're concentrated on that while you're stretching, great. I think you probably need to do it for longer than like 10 minutes though. You know, most people, it's like, I'm going to do a quick, okay, I stretched, I'm done, see ya. It's like you need to like, and like you said, the breath work with it too, or even just on its own. But yeah, trying to focus on the CNS relaxing, not I'm going to stretch so that I'm not muscular sore. I also think about the recovery stuff in the way of just like fueling your body and giving it what it needs to recover. There's so many people that are doing workouts and doing that sort of stuff, but then they eat kind of not great, and they're not drinking enough water, and then they kind of go to they just drink coffee in the morning, and then they have a couple sips of water, or maybe they have, I don't know, some other fun drinks, energy drinks or teas or something at night. And it's not just like constantly getting water and fluids into your cells. And also the food thing is just, I don't think we give enough credit to what food can do for you as far as performance and recovery. And it's like, if you're just eating nutritionless food all the time, and then you're trying to add these intense workouts, or they could not be that intense. It depends on where you're starting from. Like,
intense is relative.
Yeah, it's relative. You got to be fueling your body properly, and that's eating foods with high nutrient density, fruits, vegetables, meat, proteins, all that good stuff. Obviously staying away from the processed food. That you can't just look at the nutrition facts on the box and say like, whoa, look, it's got this much magnesium, this much that, this much whatever. It's like, this is not a whole food that's giving you all the antioxidants and like the big thing, the flavonols now and all that good stuff. You're not getting any of that. And also these processed foods, like your body's not breaking them down the same as it would an apple or an orange or something. The vitamin C you're getting from peppers or from apples is not the same vitamin C you're getting out of your cereal.
Sure.
Like, not all nutrients are created equal, and I think we tend to see them as that, unfortunately, to where we need to see them as kind of what it is. It's like, this is a dead food. Like, if you left this box of cereal out on the counter, it's like we just had it with a watermelon. Watermelon's leaking all over the counter. It's like, yeah, because this is a real food.
Yeah.
This,
like, it's living.
It's living. It's falling apart. It's dying. It's whatever. You put a box of cereal out, that's not going to do that. You put your chips out, it's not going to do that. Or just these processed, like beef jerky. Everybody loves beef jerky. It's like, this is highly processed. And if you let that sit out, it's going to stay on the shelf for a long time. So it's like, you have to think about these things in the bigger picture of like, it's not just this one nutrient, those, like, you need creatine, you need protein to help you recover. And then, healthy sugars is good too for recovery. But then we all get tricked into like, well, what's the easiest, most convenient way to get protein, creatine, and healthy sugars. And it's like now we're eating applesauce and gummy strips or something, or we're just taking a multivitamin that we feel like is conquering all. So now we can eat cereal and other junk and stuff. And it's like, that's not fueling your body to then recover, to then be able to be ready for the next day and the next workout and that sort of thing. You're just kind of, I don't know, you're not doing it as efficiently as you could be. And honestly, you might be getting into situations that we got into of like, your headaches all the time, or you go to do these workouts and you don't have the energy, you don't have the ambition, you don't have any of that because you're so wore out because of all of these things that we're talking about today, of you're not recovering properly because you're not doing all of these certain things.
Yeah, well, that's something that I had to continue to switch my brain on with the food stuff, because I think when you think about it from what was her name, like Dr. Casey something on
Casey Means. Yeah.
The way that she talks about food I love, but it's especially in the recovery aspect of it, or the fitness side of things. Like, she talks about how food is what's building you, it's what's making you. So like, you are turning into that food.
Yeah.
So if I'm eating processed and ultra processed foods, so like anything that's not, this is the ingredient, this is an apple, this is a pear, this is a chunk of meat, you are becoming that thing. So if I'm eating, I mean, take something that's like not even that crazy processed, but it's still processed. Like, what?
I mean, I was going to say like granola bars. Those are my...
So like, say if it's a granola bar, you don't know every ingredient that's in there, most likely, or what's keeping that gooey substance together. Yeah. How was it made? What machines was it going through to make that happen? What's the processing of how does it get into the packaging? And then what is the material of the packaging? And then how long is it there before it gets to you? That is what you're using to build your muscles, build your cells, repair your cells, build your, like, everything that is happening in your body is now a granola bar. That... Yeah. When it comes to recovery, why that's also important is we work out, or we try to be active, I would think, to have a goal of improving our life, improving our health, maintaining what we already have, trying to eliminate the decline of that, and maybe even more specific goals of building muscle in a specific way or losing weight in a specific way. That your food is what's fueling that. Your food is what's making that muscle up. Your food is what's adding to the brain transfer of when you're able to recover faster and be able to, like, again, like the CNS type of thing. If I am eating foods that are stressing my body, that's stressing my nervous system. Yeah. That's causing sensitivity in my body. So now my body is in fight or flight because I'm eating something that my body's like, no. So now I am taking that energy that I should be using to recover, and I'm using it to go, like, just focus on the food, because my body, that's a foreign object to my body. So we got to figure that out. Now I never got the time to recover for the activity that I'm going to do. So I think it's like, even like the whole dirty bulk thing. It's like, okay, so your dirty bulk is you're building muscle off of Culver's. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, what's the quality of that muscle then? It's Culver's quality.
Well, and I've never been more injured than when I was doing that.
Because your body's in a constant fight or flight of stress.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's not getting the nutrients it needs. Like, you're putting on weight, great, or you're putting on some muscle too, great, but you're putting on a good amount of fat, and again, it's like your body's not getting fueled for what it needs. I had this neck thing during that time that, like, I couldn't do bench press because, like, trying to activate everything, you get your CNS to be ready to go to lift heavy weights and stuff. My neck, like, it just this piercing pain in my neck.
Yeah.
And it's just, Jesus Christ. And then, like, one of my pecs was weird and my hip was weird at that time, and it's just everything.
Well,
like
I mean,
everything just starts to fall apart.
you think about that. Like, your nervous system is the highway of your body. Like, it's where everything is traveling through. Maybe there's a better analogy than that, but like,
But it is. I mean,
it's a roadwork system. Like, that is what everything is connected to. So what we experience a lot of times is just the symptoms of that.
Totally. Yeah. Of our
It's like,
CNS being not efficient, and
we try to fix the symptoms, but if we could just fix the root. So it's like, yeah, you're injured. And even with that, like, that's how you pick up weight, is the signaling going to your muscles of, we need to fire and we need to work to pick this thing up. Well, if it's focusing on your injury because you have inflammation because of the Culver's you just ate, it's not going to allow you to pick up that weight.
and I think that's like going to the inflammation or even like the injury side of it. If you're having this kind of chronic pain or achiness or injury or whatever, as long as something major didn't really happen, but it's just thing that's kind of built over time and now is consistent over time, that is a sign of you're not recovering properly. It's like if you're constantly having a knee issue all the time, and this is something that you think back, you're like, I didn't have this 2 years ago, but it's slowly became an issue and become something over time. There's something that you're doing in the recovery process, which is like, we're kind of always recovering besides when we work out in a way, especially nowadays where it's like, we're not doing a ton of manual labor. A lot of jobs are sedentary, or we don't do things where we're moving around a lot. And even just like basic, you're putting away the dishes or you're making, dinner or whatever. You're kind of in a recovery process. It's like, you're always in recovery besides that hour or however long you're working out. So during that time, you're not getting recovered enough to get rid of these aches and pains. And that's all the things we're talking about. It could be the fluids, it could be the rest, it could be the food you're eating, it could be you're not stretching, you're not relaxing so that your CNS can take a break. Like, a lot of the times it's that. And then we go send this same signal and this same stimulus when we work out, and it just aggravates that stuff over again. So you have to look at all of these things, the full picture again, to start to figure out what's going on. And there's a lot of people where it's like, you're kind of overtraining and you're doing too much and you need to dial back, and or switch it to do different things so you're not doing the same repetitive things. But then, and I'm talking about in the gym and in working out, but then you need to look at everything else. It's like, how are you sleeping? How is your water intake? All the things we just mentioned. And you need to start to like dissect and really look at that stuff, because like we just went through, we thought it was coffee, and then maybe not. But then for you, it like probably most certainly was coffee. For me, it had nothing to do with the coffee. It was something else. And then it's also like, oh, it's this workout in intense heat and whatever. It's like, you have to really pull all of the stuff apart to figure out what it is.
Well, and the coffee, a great example with me, that was my headache, but it wasn't the source. Like, I wasn't seeing how fatigued I was because the caffeine was
kind of a buffer for you. Or
it was hiding how tired I was. So it's like, when I come off of it, my natural state, and I'm not going to be off caffeine long enough to see my rebound and energy, but it's like, I was getting through the day and I was fine. So in my head, I'm like, great, I'm okay. But still getting very tired at the end of the day or earlier in the day. Caffeine was just kind of giving me that disguise that I was fine.
Well, and it's honestly, it's probably making the problem worse, because you're not being shown the signs, or you're not being shown them as strongly. It's like you being tired and falling asleep at 8:30. It's like, okay, this is different than you being able to be awake and stay up till 10, get up at 6, that routine that we've had for so long. It's like all of a sudden things shifted drastically And it's like, okay, well, this is different or weird. So clearly my body's needing more rest, but for what reason? And then you have to figure out what you think the reason is and then go from there. Is it's like, okay, do I need to keep doing these workouts and need to keep pushing myself this way because I want to, or because I have something that I'm trying to get ready for or whatever? Then I can continue that, but I need to figure out how to get more rest throughout the day then to bring my CNS down so that it's getting the proper amount of recovery and all that kind of stuff. But it's just a whole bag of bag of crap. It's like you got to think about a lot of different things. I think what we, like you said, we typically take the symptom and then we try to treat the symptom rather than what's actually causing the problem. Oh, I have this knee pain. It's like, well, I got to think about, maybe it's because I'm doing lunges. Maybe it's because I'm doing squats. Maybe it's because I'm doing this. Maybe I shouldn't do this mobility exercise or whatever. It's like, no, you eat a whole bunch of processed foods that cause inflammation, and you must have some sort of weird, degradation in your knee that's causing that.
You're dehydrated, so there's no fluidity in your knee.
Right. We only want to look at kind of like what can we physically do about it. It's like, oh, my shoulder, it's like I'm always tight back there, so I'm going to stretch it out all the time. I'm always stretching it or always moving my head or whatever to have it release or something. And it's like, well, is it just you're not drinking enough water? Maybe the nutrients you're getting throughout the day are not enough. Maybe it's the CNS thing. Maybe you're just too stressed all the time that you need to practice more of like bringing yourself down and relaxing that CNS more often. So it's a whole array of stuff you got to look at.
Yeah, well, and that's where I think we need to take more of an awareness of recovery. People just see recovery as foam rolling and stretching and like mobility, I guess, like going on the more
it's all physical.
Typical. Yeah. That's where I think people have pushback with you just got to rest. We're not saying work out and then as soon as you're sore or as soon as you're feeling fatigued or any sober way, like take a week off. I think that's where people go like, no, you just got to push through it. Like just go into the next day and like, even though you're sore, still work out. Like, well, no, we're saying somewhere in the middle of like, there's more to recovery than just stretching sore yes or sore no.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, no, you should be able to work out regularly. You should be able to stay on your consistent routine. Yes, if you're going to start a new program, there's a new stimulus, so you might have a little bit more of a different physical adjustment that needs, that you're feeling. You might get sore and you haven't been sore for a while because just a different adaptation that you're having to go through. But that doesn't mean that this whole recovery package should help you still be able to stay consistent within your activity.
Totally. Yeah. It shouldn't be I need to, like you said, I need to take 2 weeks off now because I got sore once. It's like, especially stuff like that where it's a soreness and then it goes away after a couple of days, or it's like maybe you wake up one day and you're like, oh, my neck kind of feels weird, but then it goes away tomorrow, it goes away the next day. That sort of stuff is just, charge it to the game. It's like you're working out and you're active and whatever, things are going to feel sore. You're going to maybe tweak something a little bit. And as long as that goes away fairly quickly, you're good. It's the stuff that lingers and stays for months and years, and you've been dealing with the same issues for 2 years. It's like, those are the things that, okay, I'm not recovering properly. I'm doing something that continues to aggravate this, or just like keeps this low dose kind of inflammation maybe in that area, or, the CNS situation. Like maybe I did do something weird and now my CNS is just always kind of in that stress level that it's just constantly making me feel a little bit fatigued or uncomfortable, and then that area starts to act up and whatever. Like I kind of notice for myself when I get too, like the stress bucket is filled too high, whether it's from activity or just regular life or whatever, this part in my shoulder blade acts up more and more. It's like, okay, in a weird way, it's like, I'm going to see it as a positive. Like, okay, I have a signaling system in my body that's like, hey, you're more stressed out than usual. It's like, you need to maybe dial things back, focus on, okay, have I been eating a little bit funky lately? Like, have we, gotten a Ben and Jerry's a couple nights, or have we had a little bit more alcohol than I usually do? what are those things? What's the food things? Okay, how can I reel that back in? Water intake. How's my water intake? How's that going? Maybe I can just up that just to make sure I'm getting enough. Workout wise, how's that looking? Okay, everything stayed pretty much the same there, so I don't think it would be something with that. How's my stretching and like relaxing the CNS routine going? Oh, I'm not doing any sort of like, let's just sit and relax and not have a TV on, not be in front of my phone, maybe not even read a book, like not have something going all the time. Like, let's just sit and chill out for 5 to 10 minutes and see if that helps. So it's like you got to go through this checklist of things in order to start to figure out, okay, what things have changed and maneuvered that's causing this thing to be happening. And sometimes it's none of those things. Sometimes it's just like stress of life. And that's like, okay, maybe I need to dial back workouts because that's adding to the stress bucket. Maybe I need to just kind of go to the gym, go through the motions, have it be pretty, seamless. And maybe that'll help bring all the stress down too. So I'm not adding to it.
Well, like you said, there's positive stress and then there's negative stress. And I think we only think about stress in the emotional sense.
Right.
Of like, oh, I'm stressed out about this. But like everything is a stress. Like you think of children, when they start misbehaving, most of the time it is because they are under some sort of stress. It could be emotional stress of they're trying to figure out their emotions, but I think sometimes it's also what we're talking about. Like their body is not balanced. So then they're overstimulated to then like they're just acting to where we maybe cause injuries within ourselves because we're not going to just throw a tantrum or, whine about things. But it's like they're technically not stressed. Like their life is just playing all day.
Yeah.
So it's like, so what would they be stressed about? But yet they're still displaying signs of being stressed. So it's like, so is it the food that they're eating? Is it they're watching screens? Is it they're in front of things that are toys that are making sounds and making noises and they're constantly having stress from other, like I think stress is, and where I also wrote down like different types of recovery. Stress is the food. Stress is the things that you drink. Stress is the conversations that you have. Stress is what's around you and senses that you're experiencing. Do you have a lot of like weird artificial candles around? Do you have too many like things that you're using day to day that are causing your body to go out of balance? That then there's different types of recovery for all of those. Like, is it I recover by just, I'm going to sit down and relax? Or am I going to recover by, let's go have a drink somewhere because that's fun and I'm getting out of work mode or whatever. There's different types of relaxing that I think we could take advantage of that will involve, or that will trickle down to something as simple as your workout. Like if I'm stressed and high going all day, maybe going and taking a break and doing something fun, even though it's not a healthy activity, we're going to get a drink, that might make me have my next week of workouts be better because now I've gone back into like, well,
because it was
I'm
relaxing.
not up here all the time. Yeah.
I think you got to look at stress as like kind of being fluid, and it's about finding the balance within that. Because there's one person that's getting more stressed out because they're working out 6 days a week and they're actually just adding to that bucket of stress. But then there's another person that doesn't work out at all and they don't understand why they're anxious and have OCD about stuff or whatever, and they don't ever work out and get any activity. I mean, it's like we see it all the time when kids come into class. You can tell which ones have gotten a lot of activity that day or that week versus the ones that haven't, because they're rambunctious and they're freaking out, and they're like their behavior is not as good because they have so much pent up stress that hasn't been able to be released by getting activity and getting exercise and whatever. So it's like a lot of these things, it's just about finding the balance between it. And it's not so much, well, you need to work out every day and push yourself every day because that's going to help release the stress. Well, no, that can actually end up adding to it. But it's not the same on the other end of, well, I need to just do nothing and that's going to get rid of my stress. Like, no, how many of you are just sitting there and you've sat there all day long and you're like, man, I just feel like anxious or just like jittery and just like, and my fuse is short or whatever. It's like, yeah, because you're not getting any energy out. You're not like, that is a different type of stress that you need to like get out and get rid of.
Well, yeah, it's like our workouts, they were causing my CNS to be working heavily. That doesn't mean don't do the workouts. Like, that's okay for me to allow it to ramp up and to ramp up maybe higher than it normally does. The problem was I wasn't regulating it and bringing it back down. I wasn't doing my recovery to be able to handle the workouts. I'm just doing the workouts and then letting my body ride off of that.
Yeah. And then you're not recovering afterwards. And
so like the workout's not the problem. It's my type of recovery wasn't good. I was eating good. I was hydrating, doing all the things, but that's not what was causing my issues for that specific time. Now, right now, when we're going more into a traditional lifting weights,
right,
not outside, like don't have a lot of other stimulus or stressors with that, that's where I know for me, I need to be more cautious and more aware of my intake of food. I don't push it a lot of the times, or I maybe don't keep up with my workload. So that's where I start to get the injuries and I start to get tired and I start to because I'm not fueling for my output. So switching, maybe I don't need to focus so much on the relaxing and doing all that. Now, I think for me, where I maybe ride in that a little bit too much, I should probably just have that be my daily maintenance, not even a recovery. But for the workout specifically, I don't need to focus so much on the everything else that I was doing. I need to put more of a focus on food than I was before.
I think there's times to push things, and you kind of have to do that at certain moments. You got to push it a little bit. I think that's where it's just even more important to try to focus on the recovery side of it, of like, I need to make sure I'm getting a little bit of just those recovery things. It's like work might get so crazy for you and it might feel like you can't take 5 minutes, but I think it's like you need to take that 5 minutes to like, I'm just going to sit and breathe for 5 minutes, or I'm going to do something for 5 minutes that is relaxing to me. Maybe it's just lay on the ground or whatever. It could be reading, trying to find that thing that is going to be relaxing to you. It's not going to be stressful to you. Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying reading, and we've been doing that a little bit more, but there's some times where it's like, that sounds more like work than it does like, oh, let's just like read. So I need to clock that in my head of, people say reading is relaxing. Well, to me, it's not really relaxing. Like, I'm trying to get something out of it. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because of the books that I'm choosing. So it's like, when I'm going to read, I kind of need to think of it in the sense of, this might be a little bit of stress for me. This isn't probably going to be relaxing. So it's like, even though people say, well, go work out, it'll like, it relaxes me. It's like, well, that's you. For me, this might be an increase in stress. So it's like, I need to figure out my things of relaxation and stress relieving, and figure this is the annoying part about all of this health and fitness stuff, is it's like, you have to figure out, you as an individual, what works for you. Mm-hmm. It's like, you have to take the accountability and you have to figure that stuff out for yourself. If you don't do that, you're going to constantly blow in the wind with what all these people are saying all the time of, do cold showers. Like, it's changed my life, and like, everybody needs to do it. It's the best thing ever. When really it's like, you're already stressed to the gills. A cold shower is just going to push you over the edge. Yeah. So you have to take accountability, and you have to figure out for yourself what the things that are going to work for me and not. And that's just an experimental process you have to go through if you want to dial these things in and be healthier and be more fit. You can't just listen to what everybody else is saying and take that and then be 6 months later to be like, yeah, nothing changed. And it's like, well, because you just blindly took somebody's advice and didn't think about it for yourself and how it's working for you. Because it's that book example to me is like clicked. It's like, oh, this isn't relaxing to me. This is work to me. Where working out a lot of the times is relaxing to me. It's like, sure. I like being able to just go get energy out and whatever and go do that stuff. And I always feel better afterwards. For a lot of people, it's like, that's work.
Yeah.
And that's adding to the stress bucket. Well, now you need to figure out, how do I take that stress away? What's the thing afterwards that I got to do? And that you got to figure that out. And some of the things that we're talking about, I think, are very general, like basic rules of the food thing's pretty black and white. You can't be eating a bunch of processed foods and unbalanced diet and be junk and that be like, well, that's actually what's best for me. Well, no, it's not. It's worse for you. And same with the water intake. I don't think anybody's like, yeah, I only drink a cup of water a day and that's the healthiest thing that I could do. It's like, yeah, no, that's just also not true. To where the other things, there's some fluidity and some variance with that you have to kind of figure out.
Yeah. I think that's the general advice should be, look at the overview of what you're doing. What's the work put in, and then what's the recovery, and full scope view of that, of types of recovery of your mental health, your physical health, and your emotional health. Like, all of those need to be balanced as well. If you're going out there and you're doing crazy workouts and you feel like you're on point with the sleep and the eating and the food, and you're like, but I still feel like shit. It's like, okay, well, do you have other emotional things that you're struggling with? It's like, that's still going to make your body out of balance.
Yeah.
Is your mental state, granted, I think that probably ties back to the CNS aspect of it, because that's also what pushes those chemicals out into your body and into your brain. But it's like, it has to be a full scope in order to have the balance. And not that that needs to be a stress, even in us saying that, of now you just have all this workload, but it could give you more answers to, like, I feel like I'm doing all the things, and then still it's like, well, are you looking at fully scope at the whole thing and trying to find the tiniest ways that, I don't know. Like, I think some people, for me, I pushed it too much in some areas. I'm like, well, why isn't this working? It's like, well, because you're wasting your time, kind of. Like, you could be stretching, you could be foam rolling, you could be doing this massage gun, you could be getting massages and doing the cups and getting dry needling done and all the things. It's like, okay, but are you so stressed about recovering with all of these things that you're just kind of counterbalancing it with your emotional stress? It's like, maybe I just need to sit down for a second and relax and not be on a computer screen.
Yeah.
And do emails. Maybe that'll help.
And in a lot of ways, all those things you named, is like, those are temporary fixes. Like, those don't fix the root cause a lot of the time. And it's like you're saying, a lot of the root cause a lot of times, your CNS is stressed out.
Yeah.
You have to figure out a way to relax that, not just like stretch and relax your muscles for, it's like, yeah, massages are great. An hour of that, it's relaxing, but 3 hours later, you're back to what you feel like, and who you are, basically. It's like, you're still the same person.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're constantly living in that fight or flight or stressed out situation, it's like, all that massage work that you did gave you temporary relief, but you're just going to be back to, oh, my shoulder blade feels weird again today. It's like, well, you're not solving the actual stressors of what your life is. And that's kind of what you have to figure out. And it also doesn't mean don't do all of those things that you're doing. If you're like, I'm going to start a workout program, I'm going to eat healthy, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to sleep better, I'm focused on that, and you do those 3 things, you've been doing them for 6 months to a year, and your problem or whatever hasn't gone away, it doesn't mean like, well, don't do these anymore. It's like, that's still greatly benefiting your health and putting you into positions that could help you even more so figure out what you need. But it just doesn't mean that rarely is it ever one thing solves the problem.
Yeah.
It's the looking at the whole picture, dialing in all the little things that you can as best as you can, and kind of doing everything all at once to bring it to this overarching solution. It's not just, and I just realized, like, I needed to drink more water. And it's like, yeah, probably not, but that's one piece of the puzzle, and that's great, but it's a whole puzzle. You got to do a lot of the stuff.
Yeah. Well, and if it's something as simple as, well, when I drink water, I feel like I am taking care of myself, and that relaxes me a little bit.
Totally.
It's like, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't go, well, I'm eating great and I'm working out perfectly when I need to and I'm drinking water, but then your kids are crying in the back and you're like, but I'm drinking water and it's fine.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think even just something that we could probably do a better job with is trying to bring more, I don't know. We're very like behavioral. This is the behaviors. We don't bring a ton of like statistics and the facts like enough of the time, I think. So I think even just wrapping this up somewhat, I think we need to bring more of that sometimes. But I think we believe the behavioral stuff is the way to do the things and get the things done. It's like the facts and the statistics just don't tell you how to do the thing or do the story. It's like that's one of the things that Dave Ramsey talks about with, you know, becoming wealthy or whatever, is the smart, logical thing to do is like when he's talking about getting rid of debt. He always says like, yes, all of these accountants or all these people, all these financial advisors tell me like I'm telling everybody the wrong information. They should be getting rid of the debt that has the most interest because they're going to save the most money. But what they have found through experience and through the behaviors is people that do that don't get rid of all of their debt. The people that start with the smallest amount of debt, so say it's like a $500 credit card bill, and then they work up to their car payment or their car that has $16,000 worth of debt, that like snowball effect, people have more success rate doing that rather than choosing the thing that has the most interest. And I think that's the way that I tend to view like the health and fitness space is, sure, that might be the best way to build muscle, but nobody's going to fucking do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody's going to do that workout program or do those exercises or stick with it. Like they'll do it for 3 months and then they'll back out. And I think it's the same. It's just the way that I kind of view all of this. It's like, what are people going to stick with and actually do? And most of the time it's not, let's sit here for an hour and give them all the statistics, because people don't care about that. Like they care about the story and what can I do and the behaviors and what actually fits into my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can give, well, you need to work out 3 days a week and you need to, you know, breakfast is the most important meal of the day and here's the reasons why and here's all the facts and whatever. And it's like, okay, in 1 ear, out 1 ear. Like I can't do that. Like I wake up and I have to take my kids to school. I don't eat breakfast. So now what? I'm fucked?
Right.
It's like, that's
right.
No, like that's, I mean, I say no more to the people that are like, you have to eat breakfast. You have to find a way to do it. It's like, no, that's not how people's schedules work. That's not how people live life.
Yeah.
They're not just going to like, well, I guess I'm going to eat breakfast now and get up at 3 a.m. so I can have breakfast. It's like, no, they give them options. Give people the behaviors and what they should try to think about and focus on. How do I correct it just a little bit this way? The boat analogy. You got one boat going straight, one boat that's right next to them but goes 1 degree. Over time, they're going to be super far apart. It's like, how can we just shift you 1 degree so that in 1 year, 2 years, like you're on this other path that's like you're getting healthier and you're getting better. And that to me is through behaviors. It's not by going work out 3 days a week and you'll be healthy. Don't worry about it.
And the stats don't always show the individual, like you're saying. Like,
yeah,
through working with people, it's like, okay, yeah, you can tell one of your clients, okay, well, you're eating a bagel with cream cheese every single morning. Like, maybe that's what the problem is. Mm-hmm. But it's like, okay, but look at that person's whole life as a whole and like what stressors are they going through right now. It's like, is that bagel and cream cheese the one consistency that they can count on every single day of their day of chaos? Like, maybe that's the one piece of mind that they have. Physically, to their digestion, no, it's not fueling their body great. But if that's the one thing that they can count on and that gives them joy every single day, that will get them to eat healthier with the other meals. That will get them to come into the session. That will get them to prioritize their sleep and all the things that they're supposed to prioritize because they had one thing to hold on to.
Yeah. Well, and I think as long as that one thing isn't very detrimental or it doesn't have like a very large domino effect of the rest of the stuff. Like if somebody came in and was like, I only want to do 30-minute high intensity, like push me until I puke workouts, that's all I'm interested in. Be like, well, that's going to affect so many things
Sure.
that that's something that's like, I can't just like have you hold on to that. Like that wouldn't be wise.
Sure. Morally, that would be bad for the trainer.
Yeah. And it's like, I get that might do something emotionally for you or psychologically for you, but it's like,
we got to work on that then.
yeah, that's like it's too extreme. But a bagel with cream cheese is not extreme. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, whatever. Or I need to have Diet Coke every day. Okay, not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But it's like when you start getting into the extreme stuff, you know, it's like, okay, well, that's just not good. And the compounding interest of that is going to, like, we can't make up for that.
Because hopefully with time, you will be able to figure out the rest of why your life is chaos. Like take the client with the cream cheese bagel. If she can figure out through time with slow steps of, well, maybe this was a little bit off, so now let's adjust that. So that part of your stress, that stress part of your life is now better. And now we do that with all those different things. Adjusting the cream cheese bagel eventually won't be a problem.
Yeah, and most likely that bagel with cream cheese is not going to be tearing everything else apart and affecting everything else. It's like that's kind of a small, simple thing, and they could be eating really great lunches, really great dinners, having a good amount of water, you know, getting whatever antioxidants and other things they get. Maybe they're drinking coffee and it's like they're getting some antioxidants from that. They could be working out fairly consistently and all that kind of stuff. It's like that bagel with cream cheese is not going to push them in the direction of bad and can't fix it, that sort of thing. It's like there's so many other things that they can be doing that are kind of overpowering that. But you want to be careful with that because there are things that are going to affect things greatly. Like that's not something that's like, if they were like, I just have to have my cup of coffee at 9 p.m. at night, I'd be like, well, that's really messing up your sleep. So that's probably going to be an issue.
Is there another vice that we can switch you to?
Yeah. You know, it's like, oh, I just have to have, you know, a ton of sugar at night. It's like, that's going to be affecting things pretty negatively.
Yeah.
Or like the HIIT workout example, or, you know, name something that's going to be very extreme and affect a lot of things. But when it's something simple like that of like, yeah, I have a bagel with cream cheese in the morning and that's my breakfast. It's like, okay, that I'm not worried about. It's the fact that like you're telling me you sleep 4 hours a night. It's like, we need to fix that. Or you're, you know, only want to do HIIT workouts and high intensity. It's like, we can't do that. That's adding to the stress bucket most likely. Because I know your job is you're a lawyer and, you know, you're working 60, 70 hours a week. And it's like, you're already way too into, like, you need to come in here and we just need to like meditate.
Yeah.
We just need to come in here and just like sit and chit chat and just relax. Like we really don't need to do anything. But I think you have to be honest with yourself and try to identify those things. It's like what we did with these workouts. It's like, okay, this is having a very large ripple effect. And once we figured it out, it took 3 weeks to figure that out. But it's like, oh, okay, it's this. So now what do we do? And for us, it was like, we weren't married to it. So it was like, let's just not do these workouts and do something else, you know?
Yeah,
and then we can maybe come back to it at some point, or when we want to do them inside and not outside and see what that looks like. But it's like, just adjust and try to identify that thing and adjust and make everything else better. But there's some truths that I do want people to know and to stick to, but there's some stuff that is fluid and variable. It's like, you got to eat healthy, you got to get sleep, you got to drink water for sure. The workout thing can definitely be a little bit fluid, but like you mentioned, you want to get to a point where you're doing workouts that kind of feel good and they give you more energy throughout the day rather than take a whole bunch away, kind of like what it was doing for you.
Well, I mean, that's a great example of that. Like if I still was not doing the recovery that I need to, but that's also why there's not a one size fits all for working out. Lifting is better for me than cardio is for me, because I am already ramped majority of the time. I don't relax easy. So I'm going to go and run and boost my cortisol. It's like, I'm already there.
Yeah.
It's going to be harder for me to bring that back down to where lifting, where I'm having to trudge through it a little bit. That is almost what's bringing me back to a little bit of a base point. For some other people, they can handle cardio and it doesn't have them spiral. For me, that would like throw me way too crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel good.
All right, cool.
See you later.